Is it morally wrong of me to deny financial assistance to my family, even if it means they will become homeless? Being the firstborn of my mum, life took a sharp turn when I was just 5, losing my dad. By the time I hit 8, Mom remarried, and by 9, I found myself shipped off to live with my dad's sister in another state. Her husband wasn't keen on having me around, so I had to find a new place to stay. They used to help out my aunt for taking care of me, but when I hit 14, that aid dried up. With my aunt and uncle both in low-paying jobs and 2 kids of their own, it was tough going financially. Yet they graciously kept me around, treating me like one of their own. Visits with Mom became rare occurrences. In the span of my childhood and teenage years, I caught glimpses of her presence a mere 5 times. Curiously, she never bothered to reach out or make a single phone call. Meanwhile, she went on to bring 3 more lives into this world: a 19-year-old son, an 18-year-old daughter, and a 16-year-old son with my stepfather. As I navigated my formative years, I sought solace in connecting with my siblings and parents through social media, only to discover that their lives stood in stark contrast to my own. Amidst their extravagant getaways, opulent abode, and possession of cutting-edge technology, my family lived a life of luxury. Meanwhile, I pursued higher education and tied the knot at the tender age of 23. Unbeknownst to my mother and siblings, my marital status remained concealed. Presently, at the age of 28, I am thriving financially, as my husband and I proudly hold the keys to our very own home. In the realm of financial prosperity, we find ourselves blessed with numerous lucrative investments and prestigious occupations. Together, my 2 female cousins, one aged 30 and the other 27, and I joined forces to assist our beloved aunt and uncle in achieving their long-awaited dream of homeownership last year. However, a distressing turn of events unfolded when my mother unexpectedly arrived at my aunt's residence, desperately pleading for monetary assistance. It appears that my stepfather had succumbed to a gambling addiction some years ago, resulting in the depletion of their entire savings. In the midst of the Rona crisis, he finds himself unemployed, leaving them unable to sustain their home without assistance. Desperate for help, my aunt confesses to my mother that she doesn't have the financial means to support her. Curiosity piqued, my mother questions how my aunt managed to afford her new house if she's strapped for cash. In response, my aunt reveals the misdeeds of myself and my cousins. Intrigued, my mum requests my phone number. As soon as she reached out to me, describing the predicament, I firmly expressed my inability to assist. Despite my refusal, she persistently pleaded, emphasizing that my siblings would face homelessness if I didn't intervene. Suggesting that perhaps they should consider selling some of their luxurious possessions or seeking employment like my cousins, I abruptly ended the call before she could respond. Since then, I have been inundated with a constant stream of messages from my mother, siblings, and even my stepfather, all desperately pleading for my assistance. It's worth noting that I have never had any prior communication with my siblings. Not only have they started to torment my husband and my sister-in-law, but they've also made repeated attempts to contact my aunt and cousins in order to manipulate them into persuading me to reconsider. The anger I feel towards all of them is indescribable. They discarded me without a second thought, only to come crawling back when they found themselves in need. However, a sense of guilt is creeping up on me, and I find myself questioning whether I am the one at fault. Is it possible that I am the jerk in this situation? The individual who posted this is caught in a no-win scenario. If they happen to be financially struggling, their parents and family members want nothing to do with them. Yet, as soon as it becomes known that the OP has some wealth, suddenly everyone is interested in getting a piece of it. The OP finds herself surrounded by a family that is solely interested in one thing: money. Their concern for her well-being is non-existent. Their sole focus is on what they can gain from her. The influx of wealth has merely shifted the source of their neglect. It brings to mind a quote by Seneca, which states, "For many men the pursuit of riches does not bring an end to their woes." The outcome was not a transformation, but merely an alteration. This was precisely the case in this situation. The increase in wealth did not result in a sudden surge of affection from her family. It simply modified their perception. A particular comment introduced an intriguing concept. I stumbled upon a fascinating concept known as adult adoption, which was completely new to me. It seems that in certain situations, depending on the location, it can have a profound impact on inheritance. Some individuals have suggested that the OP explore this option further. They provide an intriguing example, stating that if the OP, in a tragic twist of fate, both the wife and her husband meet their untimely demise simultaneously, perhaps in a devastating car accident. With no children to inherit their belongings, the distribution of their assets will depend on their location and whether or not they had prepared a will. In such a scenario, it is possible that the OP's biological mother and the husband's parents could potentially share in the division of these assets. Considering the narrative, the original poster may not desire such an outcome. Therefore, if one finds themselves in a similar predicament where their family has forsaken them, only to approach them later in life seeking financial assistance, would they be inclined to grant their request? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, whether you think he's a jerk or not, and provide your reasons. Initially, I believed he was just a friendly person, but it turns out he's married. On St. Patrick's Day weekend, I received some inappropriate texts from him at 3 a.m. He invited me to come over and have some fun, claiming that he has had feelings for me for a while and believed that I felt the same. However, I must clarify that I am not interested in him romantically, as I am attracted to women. Unfortunately, I haven't come out at work yet. To make matters worse, he even sent me a revealing selfie, which narrowly avoided crossing the line, but was still too close for comfort. As I glanced at the messages he had sent, I found myself amidst the company of my friends, utterly bewildered. The sheer audacity of it all left me exclaiming, "What on earth?" It was clear that this predicament was reserved for Mondays alone. I strictly adhere to a personal code that forbids any engagement with work-related matters, be it thoughts, actions, or responses to messages, outside the confines of Monday. From Monday to Friday, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., my personal phone remains untouched for work-related matters. In the event that a call or text comes in from a colleague who is not counted among my trusted confidants, someone I know won't bring up work during our weekend interactions, I have no intention of picking up. Treating my interaction with this individual as a predicament of the workday, I opted to disregard his initial message. However, he persisted in reaching out to me, sending a series of subsequent messages. The first one was an apology, explaining that he had been under the influence and regretted his previous behavior. The next message revealed that he hadn't expressed his true intentions, but he still held an interest in me and believed that I reciprocated those feelings. When Monday arrived, I composed an email using our work correspondence, addressing him as a co-worker. The purpose of the email was to provide a follow-up on his previous messages. I attached the necessary information and made it clear that any further communication should strictly occur through official work channels. In the confines of the typical workday, I refrain from utilizing my personal phone number when communicating with my colleagues. Furthermore, I must express my dissatisfaction and discomfort with the nature of the messages you have sent. If you need to reach out, please do so in relation to work matters. Sincerely, me. Although I did not forward this email to the HR department, I did take the precaution of blind copying it to my personal email for record-keeping purposes. To my surprise, he reacted with anger upon discovering that I had attached his photograph to a work-related email. Did he perceive my actions as an attempt to jeopardize his employment? I also took a screenshot of the message and included it in a separate email reiterating my previous request to only communicate with me regarding work matters through my business email or Slack. After that, he stopped sending me text messages but approached my desk in person. Before he could say anything, I preemptively asked if it was related to work. He acknowledged that he knew what it was about, but I informed him that I was not available for a discussion at that moment, if he needed to meet with me for work-related matters. In a display of frustration, he asked if it would be possible for him to arrange a meeting and provide a summary of the subject in advance. Without waiting for a response, he turned and left. Reflecting on the situation, he couldn't help but feel that he may have been somewhat harsh in his approach. Perhaps he could have addressed the issue through a simple text message, but the constant need to confront such behavior in every job had taken its toll. His tolerance for using his own precious time and energy to politely request men to cease their actions was wearing thin. I have made a decision to establish a standard that I will not participate in any communication beyond my designated work hours or through personal accounts. Do you think I was being unreasonable by sending that email? Now, let me provide you with some updates. Firstly, it appears that the vast majority of you believe that it would be wise for me to approach HR proactively regarding this matter. I hesitated, waiting to see if he would calm down on his own, but his approach to my desk, after being reprimanded twice, convinced me that it would be unwise to continue holding off. Without delay, I decided to forward the emails to HR and requested a meeting to discuss the matter further. Fast forward to later in the day, I sent an email to HR, and they promptly scheduled a meeting with me. During the meeting, I recounted everything that had transpired, although there wasn't much more to add that hadn't already been documented in the emails. HR assured me that I wouldn't face any repercussions for coming forward. There is an increased level of interaction with him in the workplace. A meeting has been scheduled for tomorrow to discuss his situation. The outcome is still uncertain, whether he will be terminated, reassigned, or if our paths will simply never cross again. It seems that his fate may hinge on how he navigates this conversation. I am confident in my decision to reach out to HR. Not only have I taken a stand for myself, but perhaps I have also made a difference for other women. Should it be revealed that he has engaged in such actions multiple times, initiating the creation of a paper trail would prove to be a prudent course of action. Jumping ahead to the future, once more, I found myself at happy hour with a group of my female colleagues from my field event. During our gathering, one of my friends shared an unsettling encounter she had with a man she had previously met at a professional conference. She had given him her business card, including her phone number, and he had the audacity to send her an inappropriate image. In response, she firmly expressed that his behavior was unacceptable and informed him of her marital status. However, he brazenly suggested that her husband need not be aware of their interaction. Taking matters into her own hands, she had her husband reach out to him, leaving a voicemail instructing him to cease all contact. From that point on, she never engaged with him again. Never again did his presence grace her life. In my quest for justice, I mustered the courage to request from her the evidence of their conversation, imploring her to share the screenshots with my HR liaison. Much to my relief, she consented, revealing that their encounter had taken place at a prestigious industry conference where he had assumed the role of the company's representative. It was there that she had innocently exchanged business cards, hoping to expand her professional network. Little did she know he would exploit this connection to unleash a barrage of unsolicited and indecent images upon her. The gravity of the situation was such that she felt compelled to involve her husband, seeking his intervention to put an end to this relentless harassment. Once again, I find myself resisting the urge to check my email. The goal is to separate my work life from my personal life and not let this consume my thoughts tonight. However, it appears that HR has gathered even more information before their meeting with him. And now, for the grand finale, the news has arrived. He has been terminated. The specifics are still unknown to me. I have a follow-up meeting scheduled with HR, but my colleagues have informed me that he was escorted out of the building earlier today. An eyewitness, who happens to sit near the HR office, overheard the commotion. In a dramatic turn of events, the protagonist unleashed a torrent of screams upon the HR staff during their morning meeting. The rapid escalation of the situation was truly astonishing, especially considering that just a week prior, the protagonist had been perceived as a calm and collected individual. Reflecting on this unfortunate turn of events, one can't help but wonder how they would have handled such a distressing situation. It is disheartening to realize that the protagonist has repeatedly found themselves in similar predicaments, emphasizing the gravity of the circumstances they face. It's fascinating to discover that she possesses a well-defined strategy for handling such predicaments. It appears that she is well-versed in navigating through similar situations, having encountered them numerous times before. At the age of 20, I find myself in the role of the eldest sibling, with two younger siblings named Joe and Jill. As twins, they are both 18 years old and preparing to graduate from high school this year. It has become evident to me that Jill holds a special place in our parents' hearts, as they have always longed for a daughter. On the other hand, Joe seems to bear the burden of being the unexpected addition to our family, often serving as the scapegoat for our parents' frustrations. Being the oldest grandson on both sides of my family, I have experienced firsthand the blatant favoritism that runs through our relatives. Witnessing the unfair treatment towards Joe, I couldn't help but feel a sense of sympathy. Determined to make a difference, I took it upon myself to do whatever I could to support him. In an effort to alleviate his feelings of isolation, I made a conscious decision to include him in various activities. While Jill accompanied our parents on shopping trips, I would take him skating with my friends. Whenever our parents were engrossed in Jill's kiddie pageant, I would drag my best friend along to endure Jill's elementary school musical. Initially, these gestures were driven by pity, but over time, my friends grew to prefer Jill's company over mine. As Jill's princess-like behavior began to consume her, I found myself spending more time with him simply because I genuinely liked him more than Jill. Although I have never explicitly stated it, I have made no effort to hide this preference. I must admit, I have no desire to waste my precious time in the company of privileged youngsters. Nevertheless, as I mentioned earlier, their graduation is fast approaching. Both of them have already made their college decisions, securing accommodations and all. It comes as no surprise that Jill will be attending a prestigious university in San Francisco, fully funded by her doting parents. On the other hand, Joe will be joining me at the same university in Seattle, just a short distance away. His exceptional academic achievements have earned him a full-ride scholarship, which unfortunately renders him ineligible for any financial assistance from his own parents. I took it upon myself to reach out to various contacts, inquiring about potential job opportunities for the upcoming autumn season. Amidst this endeavor, I found myself engaged in a FaceTime conversation with Joe. During our virtual interaction, I sought to provide him with reassurance. assuring him that we would secure a position that is far from mundane and offers satisfactory compensation. Furthermore, I emphasized the notion that he is better off without the financial support from our father, as we are both aware that such assistance often comes with unwelcome obligations. In an effort to prevent Mom and Dad from prying into his shopping habits, he devised a plan. After reassuring him and boosting his morale, I signed out of the conversation. Little did I know Jill had overheard our conversation, and the following day she bombarded me with a series of texts, insisting that I assist her in finding employment to escape Dad's constant nagging. Politely, I explained that I had no connections in San Francisco and suggested that she seek assistance from our parents instead. However, my response triggered an explosive reaction from her. Acknowledging the truth in these statements about my preference for Joe over Jill, I must admit that I do love both of my siblings, but I find it difficult to genuinely like Jill. As a 17-year-old male, I found myself seeking refuge with my sister after my parents disowned me for coming out. It's a complicated tale, but they assured me that this living arrangement would be temporary until I reverted back to normal, a notion I find highly unlikely. Hilarious, isn't it? Anyway, I now reside with my sister and her significant other, and the events that unfolded. Let me share with you a tale from a month ago. It is worth noting that she is the one who takes care of all the household chores. I began lending a hand here and there, also taking care of my 2-year-old niece. Now she finds herself 6 months pregnant. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law seems to do nothing, deeming himself the sole provider. However, in my humble opinion, he may be taking this role a bit too far. For instance, he instructs her to begin his laundry once he disrobes, to have dinner prepared upon his arrival home, and even to prepare the shower for him. In the midst of my sister's exhaustion and burnout, frequent arguments erupt between her and my brother-in-law. Typically, I retreat into my own world, drowning out the noise with my headphones. However, on that particular night, the commotion grew louder as soon as he arrived home, piquing my curiosity. As I approached the scene, it became evident that my brother-in-law was expressing his dissatisfaction with dinner, while my sister, drained of energy, could not summon the strength to serve it to him. Mind you, the meal had already been prepared, but he insisted on being served at the table. Instead of utilizing the kitchen utensils as promised, I opted for my niece's collection of toy utensils. A toy cup, a toy plate, a toy fork and knife, and a minuscule napkin became the tools of my culinary creation. While my brother-in-law was occupied in the shower, I carefully arranged the food on the toy plate and poured the beverage into the toy cup. As he entered the kitchen and took his seat, his gaze fixated upon the peculiar sight before him. After a few moments, he turned to me, his expression a mix of confusion and amusement, and inquired about the nature of this unconventional presentation. With a mischievous grin, I replied, "If you insist on behaving like a helpless child, then perhaps it's only fitting that you be treated as one." It all started with a single yell, piercing through the air and grabbing everyone's attention. My sister, sensing the tension, hurried inside to see what was happening. In a fit of rage, he angrily threw the napkin to the ground and stormed off, accusing me of disrespecting him and threatening to inform our parents about my actions. Meanwhile, my sister, witnessing the entire scene, couldn't help but burst into laughter. Feeling overwhelmed, I retreated to the solace of my room, hoping for the argument to cease. But it continued, unabated. And now, he expects an apology from me for interfering in his marriage and orchestrating this whole incident. Perhaps I am the one at fault here, but my anger for my sister's sake and my exhaustion from the constant nightly battles during dinner pushed me to this breaking point. Am I the one to blame for my mischievous act of serving my sister's husband's dinner with toy utensils? It's true, it did elicit a chuckle, but perhaps I should have foreseen that this prank would escalate the situation. Now, the husband is left feeling. Already on the defensive, he finds himself facing a team of opponents. It's a situation that makes him question whether he truly deserves this treatment. The words spoken. If he insists on behaving like a helpless child, then perhaps he should be treated as one, instantly solidify his belief.